I remember thinking this was such a big sort of turning point in my career, and it ended up changing my life. So I was right to think that way. So yeah, I'll never forget what that feeling was.
Hey Jamie, such a pleasure
Hey, Oga.
you today. How you doing?
I'm all right. You win best prettiest background, I think.
Thank you so much. That is the nicest thing anyone can do. Thank you. I just screened The Tourist and oh my God, I was just like, I need more. It is so captivating. I mean, you play a man who sort of his world is turned upside down because he can't, remember who he was. Where did you go creatively as an actor to bring this to life?
Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting, Olga, because usually you have like, offered to you and presented to you for an audience, and certainly as an actor when you're reading a script for the first time, you're sort of given an insight into the world of someone, and you see their family life and you see the vocation they have, and you start to get a good sense of who this person is and build your character around that. But with this, you're denied all of that, and like you just become like an audience member, and it's sort of revealed to you over the course of the scripts who this guy is, why he was where he was at the beginning when we first see him, and it all starts to get pieced together. So you're sort of building that character through what is being revealed to you. So it's like an interesting process, and it's different to what I'm sort of used to. But I guess you're trying to play it as sincere as possible in terms of as these aspects of his life are revealed to him, you're playing them as sincerely as possible in terms of like you are acting like you are hearing these for the first time and responding in a way that you sort of naturally would, because some of them are pretty jarring and some of them are pretty ugly in terms of like what is revealed to him from his past, so I think trying to play those things in the moment as best you can was my approach to it.
You're awake. Sir, can you tell me your name?
You've got like amnesia.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And definitely, I mean, speaking of sincerity, the idea of, our lives changing as much as we know it was something we all experienced last year during the pandemic. Did you maybe draw on some of that when you were bringing it to life? I remember there was a scene where, the crash has happened and you're sort of looking around, and I'm like, was this what it was like to come back to set after, a year long of madness? Yeah,
it was a bit like that. I was lucky. I got to shoot a movie called Belfast that came out. That we were the first production to start shooting in the UK in a COVID era, I guess. And particularly for that one, there was a sense of like, how do we do this again? But also like, we're so lucky to be doing this. Coming at a time where nobody knew where the next job was coming from. Every production was being cancelled, shut down, put on hiatus. There wasn't a lot of sort of purposeful activity in the industry. So it was a very frightening time, so to be able to have worked at all in that time, because I know a lot of actors didn't, and didn't get the opportunity to. You've also got a lot of actors who also were keeping down other jobs as, waiters and waitresses and bar staff and all kinds of stuff, call centers, all kinds of stuff. A lot of that stuff was closed down too. So it's a fucking murky time, to be in this game. So it felt very privileged, and then to go to Australia to do this, where COVID was kind of not as bad a thing as it was in the UK and Ireland at that time. And, felt again really grateful actually to be somewhere where you weren't having to wear masks, and you weren't, the day-to-day of living with COVID was nothing like what would come from here. So there was that sort of lucky to be, healthy and safe, I guess, and working. And I think the man has a bit of that when he first emerges, that he's lucky to be alive and relatively healthy, but then everything's revealed to him is so dark as to why he found himself in that place that it turns on its head.
I'm glad you brought up Belfast, because I was going to make a little reference to it. I mean, we saw you singing in that film, and we also saw you singing in this when you were singing along to the radio before the big event happened. So yeah. Stop singing, Jamie. So when are you going to be in this upcoming musical? When is it coming?
But funnily enough, I was meant to do a musical.
No way!
Yeah, I was meant to do a musical. It got announced and everything. It was all going to happen, and then
What musical was that?
it was the opera Carmen. They're
Oh.
doing a sort of updated version of that for film. Actually, Paul Mescal ended up doing it from normal people who'd be much better than me, I'd imagine, and younger and more handsome and more in demand. But so I sort of nearly did one. Yeah, I found myself singing. I think I'm right in saying certainly 4 jobs in a row I've sang in, maybe even 5. So it's becoming a bit habitual. And I don't know why that is. You can go years and years without singing in anything, and then suddenly you find yourself singing a bit. But all different forms, you know, all very different ways of doing it, and definitely in The Tourist, it's its own thing, and it's probably the most relatable one in The Tourist, because we've all done that where we're singing in the car, thinking we're singing quite well, or like not really being able to hit the notes, and then not really knowing what the lyrics are. I think
Notes. You were hitting the notes, Jamie.
Well, I think we were purposely trying to make it that it was out of my range, that it was a wee bit too high for me, which it was. We did a couple where I sang it in a lower register, and it was much easier to hit the notes, but we thought it was kind of funnier if it was slightly out of my comfort zone.
I think the universe is calling for it. Jamie Dornan in a musical. Let's make that happen.
Maybe.
What's one moment in your life and your career that you would hate to forget?
Oh, wow. When I got cast in The Fall, I had a real sense of it being a massive turning point. And I remember the enormity of getting that part. I'd never worked for the BBC before. I'd never even done like a small part in the BBC. I'd auditioned a lot for the BBC at this stage, but I'd never got anything. So then suddenly be the co-lead in something of that sort of magnitude, with scripts that were that good and that ambitious, was just massive. It was huge for me. I've been lucky. I've worked with BBC a few times since that, and obviously The Tourist is BBC production. But I remember thinking that was a big moment in terms of like what happens next and what this does for me, and in terms of the opportunities I'm going to get off the back of this, and to be involved in this thing that's so well structured and so well written. I remember thinking this was such a big sort of turning point in my career, and it ended up changing my life. So I was right to think that way. So yeah, I'll never forget what that feeling was.
I love that so much. But speaking of huge, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit cheeky here. I've heard some tea spill about you being in the MCU. Jamie, what can you share? What can you share that you haven't spilled already?
I tell you what, I can totally debunk the whole thing for you if that helps you as an exclusive. I think what happened was, like often with press, things get taken out of turn or get slotted into a way that fits a certain narrative. I think I mentioned that I'd met Kevin Feige, who I have met on a general meeting, but it was years ago. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. You know, every actor of a certain age on stage meets heads of studios. That's what happens. You go to LA and you meet all these people. So have I met the people at Marvel? Yeah. Have I met the people at every other big studio? Yeah. So I think it was that, and someone then decided to take that and act like I'd been talking to them recently about being in something. So yeah, there we go.
The things people take out of context, it's ridiculous.
Well used to it now.
Well, but speaking of, upcoming things, I mean, in The Tourist, they talked a lot about Australian Survivor. So have you been continuing with your Australian TV shows?
I'm not that up to date with them. I probably know more because I have my whole family out there with me. Like my kids got very into Bluey, which is a cartoon they have, which is like massive out there. It's kind of like Peppa Pig scale, like what that is here. Bluey is like the equivalent out there. So definitely I've watched a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, like so many of us of a certain generation grew up with Home and Away and Neighbours, and it's like that sort of thing where you realize, like Foster's as a beer in Australia, they don't drink Foster's, and they don't know that much about Home and Away and Neighbours. But over here, we've made a big deal out of all these things, and they're considered so sort of Australian and seismic. But yes, I definitely didn't watch any Australian Survivor. I've never seen any form of Survivor. I've never watched that show. Actually, I'm not a big. Is that reality TV? I guess that's reality TV. I'm not a big reality TV guy. I'll get seduced into the odd thing. It's not like I've never watched anything, but I haven't watched that. But yeah.
So we saw your character discovering who he was and discovering what is going on, and I imagine for him it must have been quite strange. I mean, seeing this crazy landscape. So I just wanted to link that and ask, where's the strangest place that you've been recognized?
I was at the toilet. I was at a rugby match, and I was at the toilet, and I'm at the urinal, and men standing beside each other, and this guy was having a very big chat with me whilst we were sort of trying to do our business, and he was asking me for a photo and stuff, and it was the timing of it was horrendous, and I was like, do you really want to do this now? Can we finish up what we're doing, having to do here, and maybe take it outside? So I sort of convinced him that it wasn't a good time or place to be doing this, and then we took a photograph outside. But that was a pretty awkward exchange. Yeah.
That sounds so awkward, and I guess we'll leave it at there. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thanks, Olga. Thank you.
Thank you.